Hi and welcome to School Shorts with me, Melissa Chan Green. I so appreciate your support, and if you are finding these episodes useful, I'd love for you to leave a review and let me know what it is that you're enjoying and what you would like to see more of. In today's episode, we are talking top 4 parenting challenges with Jackie Riach from Triple P. They support schools and families with all of those challenges that we didn't get a manual for. Because if you're feeling at your wit's end with some behaviour, and we all have our moments, then this episode is for you. Jackie, it's wonderful to have you here, and thank you so much for your time on School Shorts today. Triple P is something that families may have heard about through either interacting with it through early learning centres or the schools, but if parents haven't heard of Triple P before, how would you explain what it is?
So Triple P stands for Positive Parenting Programs, and it is the world's most researched program. A little known fact is that it's started here in New Zealand with Professor Sanders' early research, but there's been 820 trials of Triple P, all showing positive outcomes for children's behaviour and for how parents feel about parenting. So it's a highly researched program.
And it's all around the world?
Yeah, it's all around the world.
And is it for teachers to reach out to Triple P and say we're having challenges with a child in this particular area, or is it for families, or is it a bit of both?
So it's mostly for teachers to perhaps guide parents to it. And also, many times, teachers are the practitioners of Triple P. So they actually learn the skills of Triple P so they can support parents with some of those common concerns that parents have. Because what we know is that the most common people that parents will go to after their family is teachers.
Right. Okay. So they would be dealing with a lot of challenges that you will see crop up quite frequently. And we're going to look today at some of the top 3 or 4 top parenting challenges that come across your desk. And in no particular order, but one that is fairly common is friendships.
Yep.
We deal with challenges around friendships all our lives, but if we can look at some of those challenges that we deal with, particularly in our younger years, what are some of the things that come up?
So really common things would be a parent that was concerned that their child was struggling to make friends or being isolated and not able to engage. And the other one will be where the friendships are a bit up and down, or maybe teetering into bullying. So, when the friendships aren't going well, parents will often approach teachers about advice and guidance, or maybe come to us for some guidance.
Because friendships often go up and down in those early years, and it's a roller coaster for everybody, right? Everyone in the family. So what is the advice when you see something like that happen?
Well, the first step is really, I guess, to be quite calm and help your child to learn the skills to deal with that. Because what you can't do is you can't take over. That doesn't help your child. So we have to support our children to learn the skills of being, what is a good friend? What do we do to maintain a friendship? And how do we deal with the ups and downs?
I've never thought of this until now, but actually talking to your children about what makes a good friend and how to be a good friend is probably a really worthwhile conversation.
Absolutely, yeah. Highlighting what the key features of a good friendship is. If you've got a good friend, talk about why that person is important in your life and what they bring to your life, and how you connect with them. And that's what you're wanting your child to look for in someone that's, they can trust, that's honest, that's fun, that's reliable, that looks out for them when they're not happy, that supports them. All those kind of features of friendship, that helps our children to discern what they're looking for in a friend.
Yeah.
And I guess we can model that to our children as well, by being a good friend to our friends.
Yeah. When a child is struggling to make friends, or struggling to keep friends? Because naturally there are some children who just feel a little more awkward around making friends. How do you deal with that? It's heartbreaking as a parent to see that.
Yeah. I think it's about talking to your child and observing, particularly if they're younger. You get those opportunities by having play dates. Talk to teachers. Teachers see how the children interact. And I think it's about really getting a clear picture, because there may be some things that your child is doing, some gaps in their skills that you can support them to develop, or there may be some things about the friend that are causing it to be up and down. Again, you can only really work with your child to help them to navigate what's coming at them from the friendship. Yeah.
That is an interesting point, because often I think, well, I can only speak for myself, but you think, well, my child's certainly not doing anything wrong. But actually, you need to take a step back as a parent sometimes and think, well, are they kind of being friendly? Are they a nice person to hang out with at lunchtime?
Yeah. And sometimes it's not even not being nice. Sometimes it's a gap in their skills. Like if you think of a kid who struggles to make eye contact and maybe likes things done properly, and the friend doesn't always do it properly. And so, how do you navigate that space? Because the friend's getting a bit cheesed off because they can't seem to get it right. And your kid's just not tuned into the fact they're doing that. And it's not sort of a malicious thing necessarily, but it's just these gaps that sometimes create difficulties.
Well, definitely with young children and thinking at primary school, but actually probably it extends to later. There are naturally some personalities where you want a game to go a particular way or to be played a particular way. You want someone to be Chase from Paw Patrol and you're going to be the other guy. I don't know. I don't watch these things enough. But those kinds of arguments are the things that could happen between kids who are pretty easygoing and the others that want it to be played a certain way, I guess.
Yep, they can definitely be arguments, and it's about how do you navigate that? What do you do? How do you assert yourself without being aggressive? How do you sort of say, well, I don't want to be this character in Paw Patrol if that's what you're playing. I want to be this one. Why do you always have to be that one? I'd like to have a turn. So it's about, teaching your child to have a voice, to be able to speak up if they're the child that's on the back foot. If they're the child that is always the character, actually having some empathy and thinking about maybe other people. So there's quite a lot in that social interaction that we need to step back, not always assume there's a malicious intent on everything, and just think, how can I help them?
And to observe. I think that's what you're saying too, isn't it? Observe what's going on, and then you'll have a better idea of how you can help there. So friendships dovetails into our second challenge, which we're going to look at, which is bullying. Bullying and other social challenges. And this, although we often talk about bullying when it comes to teenage years, it starts really young, doesn't it?
Well, not really young, but definitely in that middle primary years, you might start to see it. And certainly through the later primary school years, you're going to see more incidents of bullying. Yeah, and it has to have that sort of, it's not generally a one-off unkind incident. That's hurtful and unkind and needs dealing with, but often it has a persistence about it.
What are the kinds of things you should be saying to your child if they come home and say, this person has done this to me and, it made me feel really sad?
Wow, well, you're at a really good place. One of your kids has come to you and told you about it.
Yeah.
Because that tells you they feel comfortable to tell you. That what you also did was they've expressed how they feel about it. They've expressed feeling sad. So you're in a good place. So it's really just first step is always to acknowledge them and listen to them. Stop and listen. And as a parent, it's just the most heartbreaking thing when you hear your child has had something done to them. I mean, And I think one of the things we have to kind of do with our children is our children are looking for guidance from us, just like you said. So we want to fake it if we have to, that I've got this, I can help you through this, it's not okay, and I'm here to support you. Even though you may want to melt down and weep on the floor with them, you've got to give a message that, I'm the adult and I can help you through this. We can navigate this. And so that's a place to start. Listen, stay calm, and find out actually what happened. Acknowledge your emotion.
So taking it back a step then, if they haven't come to you and said, this has happened and I feel really sad about it, but you suspect that there has been some bullying, how do you draw that out of a child?
Yeah. Well, if you're suspecting it, you're probably seeing things like maybe ripped clothing, lunches going missing, reluctance to go to school, tummy aches, that sort of thing. I think I would I'd be opening up conversations. I'd be maybe talking obliquely about somebody else and those kind of things, but also importantly talking to teachers, because they do see what's going on and they do hear stuff. They may not know, but it's about keeping that communication open and reassuring your child. And I guess that kind of segues nicely into what actions do we take, because if you go down to school and scream and shout and carry on and make a big fuss and your child really didn't want that, then maybe they won't tell you. Yeah. So it's something we've got to navigate really carefully as parents, because we do need to do something about it, but we really need to support and have our child on board as we navigate those choppy waters.
I think it's also that balance, as adults, when a friend comes to you or your partner comes to you with something that's upsetting them, and oftentimes our instinct is to say something to help them solve it. And when you're that person, sometimes you think, just stop trying to solve it and just listen to me. Yeah. I guess it's kind of navigating that balance with kids as well.
Yep, absolutely. It's like start calmly and listen, and don't jump in with a whole bunch of solutions, but do have the conversation about, I'm really upset and I can see you're sad, and we need to do something about this, and bullying can be stopped, and let's have a talk about what you would like to have happen, or what might we be able to do.
Is it ever useful to talk about perhaps your own experience, if you've had that, and how you've navigated that in the past? Because I've never had that conversation with my kids necessarily about bullying, but I know if they have had to kind of stand on stage or do something that they're feeling nervous about, I like to talk about the fact that, being brave is not being scared. It's being scared and doing something regardless. And so I say, I was really scared when I had to go and stand on stage in front of all these people, and I did it. And I find that has helped in that setting. Is there any use for that around bullying?
Well, there would be if you perhaps describe. I think when we acknowledge our children's emotions and validate them, that happened to me and I felt terrible too. That's a really important step as well. But be really careful about the solution, because if the solution is perhaps something that is less than ideal, then maybe not. I just
don't bring up retaliation or anything like that. Okay, let's come to number 3. Chores.
Oh, chores. Yeah, that's really common. That's something parents ask a lot about. How do I get my children to do chores?
Yeah. Okay, interesting. And so what is your response in that situation?
Well, I think chores are, I don't know the word chores, but I think it's really important that children help out and learn to help out. And it kind of goes back into those friendship things. If we help someone, it's a really positive thing to do. It makes us feel good. It makes them feel good. But you're living in a household and you really want to teach your kids independence. Like, I want my children to be able to leave home, and if they whatever situation they go in, to be able to make their own bed, to feed themselves, to, and it starts really early, just teaching something that's age appropriate and getting them to participate as a family. We make this house operate.
Yeah.
And how we're going to do that, and what is something that's age appropriate, small enough. And so picking something that isn't within your child's skill base to achieve, and making it achievable. If you give a child a task that is way too hard for them, you're probably going to instill a sense of failure because I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But just chunking it down and getting a small task as early on as possible. And it could just be feeding the cat. It could just be putting the cat's bowl in the dishwasher. It could be, parents come up with any number of things.
What do you think about incentives, like pocket money and that sort of thing? Is that a useful thing?
Well, it might be, but probably not really early on. It's just really important that we praise and encourage our children, and that we have a philosophy of this is a household and we're all working together to make it operate, and we're all helping one another. But it's actually up to every individual parent, and I guess that's a key feature of Triple P, is that we within Triple P make suggestions and options, and every family has their own way of doing things. They have their own rules, their own beliefs, and they choose what fits with their values and beliefs and how they want to do things. And some people may incentivize a task with some kind of reward, whether that's going for a bike ride, an extra story at bedtime,
So it doesn't have to be pocket money. It can be other things that are incentives.
Yeah, and every kid has their own currency.
Yes.
And it will be different from child to child. And I think we often have to dig a little deeper. There's some real easy defaults: food, money, screen time.
Yeah.
So they're really easy ones, and lots of kids like them.
Yeah.
But try to think outside the box, and and sometimes it's just actually having a lucky dip of things of what might happen. But ideally, we want that to be something that children do for their independence, for themselves, and a sense of achievement in that.
Yeah, and really beneficial, I guess, to be careful not to teach early on that if you do something, you get something.
Yeah, every time.
Because sometimes you should just do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and we're a family, and and I know when I was parenting my kids and they were school age, and both me and their dad were working to make this operated. Everyone needed to do their bit. So it may be just I pack my own bag.
Yeah.
I put my lunchbox in. Great. I don't
We
have to
call
do
it
that.
family help instead of chores. And so we say everybody has to do some family help at breakfast time. And so even the 2-year-old, she has to take her, once she's finished her breakfast, she has to take her plate and put it back on the bench.
Yeah.
And that's just family help. She doesn't get anything from that.
Yeah.
I mean, we've given her breakfast.
But it's not a hotel. You're not running a hotel. You're not the staff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long family help will continue.
It'll probably just
with their
change.
cooperation, but we'll see.
And so, encouraging children to do things, involving them in choosing the task. That can really help.
Idea.
Family help's a discussion. It's like, what would you like to do for family help? Well, I'm going to take the bins out. Okay, fine.
Fine. That's
Go
up
right
to you.
ahead. Yeah, knock yourself out.
That's a good idea. Okay, we're going to go to number 4, one of the top 4 challenges.
Yeah.
Self-esteem.
Oh,
and this actually probably plays back to some of the earlier challenges we talked about.
Yeah.
But it can have such a huge impact on such a wide range of learning. So it's an important one.
Oh, absolutely. So it sits across all of those things. Like when you talked about chores, doing a chore and achieving that helps me feel more confident and independent. Having friends builds my self-esteem, makes me, and I'm not sure if I said before, but you don't have to have 100 friends. Some kids like a group and other kids like 1. And that's enough, and you were talking about different natures of children. So, yeah. So self-esteem ensures that children are happier, more cooperative if they have positive self-esteem. And a really important thing for school is kids with good self-esteem are more likely to take a risk. I don't mean jumping off the highest jungle gym, but I mean when you're reading a book and you've got to try that word and you're not sure what that word is, so you give it a go, or you try to write something and you don't really know how to spell it, but you give it a go. That's taking a risk.
Yeah.
And if I feel good about myself, I'm okay to take that risk. And if it wasn't quite right, I can handle that. So it's self-esteem is really important through through schooling, and it's linked to, higher achievement and, doing well in school.
This is a really important one because I see in my own kids, and it was something in me as well, where I was really reluctant to say give an answer in front of people if I didn't know that it was right. Yeah. And it was that kind of lack of courage to back myself. And I see it with lots of kids too. How do you help that? What do you even do to help that?
So I guess there's some precursors to that. So praising their efforts rather than their achievement. So it's not always about winning, getting an A, being the best. It's about trying, making sure that they know you care, and it doesn't matter what they do, you'll always care.
Yeah.
As we said before, about facilitating friendships, but encouraging independent goal setting. So maybe I'm going to put my hand up, and maybe, I'm going to answer one question that I know first, that I'm sure, and I'm going to tell myself, I know that one. I'm going to put my hand up.
Yeah.
And my goal is just but getting them involved in the goal setting, and so that they give the first step and they set that goal and they try it, and then you check in with them. How did it go? You put your hand up.
Yes.
So okay. So if you can't put your hand up, how might you do? What might you do? Might you be able to, tell the teacher afterwards that you thought it was this, and those kind of gradual steps to helping children be more confident. But it's all sort of built around encouraging children, being on the lookout for negative self-talk. I'm really dumb. I can't do that. Reluctance to try.
Yeah. And those small achievable goals, when they achieve them, they get used to that feeling of, I did something that felt a little bit hard and I did it.
Yep. And also encouraging a bit of self-reflection on that. So how did you go with that? What did you think you did well? Because, that encourages them to be able to make a positive self-statement, particularly if they have, I passed the ball to so-and-so. Yeah, you did. It was brilliant,
Yeah.
That's my praise for them. But and then what happened? How did you feel about that? And, it's something you try again.
Reflect on it so that it sticks with you and you take it to the next thing. Yeah. Well, those were all super hefty topics, and I'm not surprised that they come across your desk fairly often. So for parents that are sitting and listening and think, actually, I would like more help with that, or for teachers who think these issues come up a lot for me, how do I get more training on that? How do people come across Triple P programs? What would be the next step?
So it would be to visit our website, and on that are the online programs. So they're programs that parents can just work through independently. So they are for certain age groups, or there's topics like Fearless on there, which is about anxiety, helping children manage anxiety. So parents can just access them. But also in the community, there's many, many practitioners trained in New Zealand throughout the country. So they can look on our website where they are, or they can contact us to find a practitioner. They may be in the local kindergarten, they may be in the local school, they may be working with a community organisation. So that's another way that parents can access it. And teachers, yeah, they certainly can train with us so that they are then, are familiar with the materials and able to support parents. So we certainly train a lot of teachers and social workers to deliver the programs.
Okay, so we've looked at the top 4 parenting challenges that you're frequently contacted with today: friendships, bullying and social challenges, chores, self-esteem, but there are many more. So yes, do get along, have a look at that website. And it was lovely to speak with you about those today, Jackie. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. If that topic was helpful for you and you'd like to hear more, please do like and subscribe. It sends me that feedback. School Shorts is all about supporting busy parents who want their children to thrive. Follow on social at School Shorts NZ for fun ideas, helpful resources, and exclusive giveaways.